Thank you, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and speaking in front of all of you. And yes, I will be speaking in English, not only because I will be referencing a few expressions that is derived from cybersecurity, and cybersecurity's native tongue is English, but also because my Norwegian is not as good as I would like it to be. I hope I understand the questions anyway. I'd like to thank the previous speakers as well. Excellent presentations, and they gave me a few notes that I'd like to address going through my presentation as well. I didn't bring a slide deck. One of the things I often get thrown at me is our top management. They see a lot of slide decks. A lot of slide decks. So if I could just come in and give them 10 minutes on what is the current state and what are you going to do about it. And that's a pleasure, because there is no way I can do that in 10 minutes. But I'm going to try for you guys anyway. First of all, I would like to say that on a daily basis, I sit in Mærsk Drilling, which is now a separately listed company. I have the responsibility for the cybersecurity strategy, the cybersecurity program, and what I call the partnering model, where I provide cybersecurity skill sets and competencies towards the business units. So that means I help the technical organization build the cybersecurity measures and mitigations around our drilling assets. So that means that I touch a lot upon the industrial control systems. We've just finished updating what is known as our recommended practice, which is a set of guidelines built on all the industry recommendations, best practices, including the best practices from Petil as well. And there's a lot of technical controls in there, but most importantly, like some of the previous speakers talked about, this area of responsibility. Who has the responsibility? I'll come back to that. I'm going to give you a few minutes of past, present, and future efforts in Mærsk. And obviously, we're going to start in the past. That's the easiest part to talk about. I'm coming up from this legacy technology, having drilling assets. The oldest one for us is I believe it's 86, so that's fairly old unit, including the technology on board. That doesn't stop our innovations department from wanting to connect to it, though. So I'll present some of the challenges of that afterwards. Another thing from the past is that in the early days on a drilling asset, IT was something that was nice to have. Perhaps it was an email program or a weather forecast or something that it was nice to have, but perhaps it wasn't essential. It wasn't a critical component in the operations. That definitely has changed over the past years. And as referenced 2 years ago, late June 2017, NotPetya came by and did quite the visit in Mærsk. Let's call it that. Whether or not you call it a hacker attack or a cyber incident or a cybersecurity incident, it doesn't really matter. What matters was we were not the target. And that's something that should scare you guys. We were collateral damage. For those who doesn't know the entire background, the NotPetya infestation came from, or infection came from, a supply chain attack. A state-sponsored group had infected an update for a piece of software used at a Mærsk office, or at least a office connected to a Mærsk unit. It was a tax app that got updated with an official update coming from official sources, but the official source had been infected. That resulted in that specific app containing malware and spreading from there. Unfortunately, on that computer that the guy who was running the app, he was using it, it had local administrative privileges. So the application itself had access to system resources. The person using the application had access to system resources on that local computer. And since that local computer was, again, we wanted to connect, so it was connected to the Mærsk network because they were doing tax reporting directly into our systems. And the malware then chose the easiest path to get more insights, more knowledge, more access, more data, more information, and flew right through the VPN tunnels, straight into the Mærsk network. Today, I have a strong background in IT, and today in 2019, for me talking about segregating network, that's something I did with the Danish Ministry of Defense and security authorities in Denmark back in 2000, 2002. But in the oil and gas industry, we're a few steps behind that. And in Mærsk, we were definitely behind that in 2017. We hadn't segregated our network strong enough. We relied on trusted channels, trusted communications. So that meant that we trusted everything that came from this computer into our system. So they had access to everything. It came in and it shattered the systems. It spread to all subdivisions in Mærsk because we all trusted the group network. It was based on firewall rules, and the firewalls were open. Again, trusted sender, trusted receiver, and then all of a sudden, screens all over the country and all over the globe went black. And at first, thinking about, you know, what people see and the experience they have, when you see this black screen and you immediately think, oh, this is not good. But when you look across an open office landscape and you see 30, 50, 100 more screens with the same image, you don't think anymore, you panic. And that panic just got stronger when you realize that this is not ransomware. It was a wiper. There was no way we're going to decrypt it at that point in time. As soon as a computer had rebooted, which was the standard action of most of the employees, you know, it fell down, it broke, something went wrong. Like in the old days, Microsoft Windows, the blue screen of death with all the cryptic codes on it. So you reboot the computer, everything's fine. But if you did that with the NotPetya, it lost the encryption key. So the key to actually get your data back was lost because it was placed in memory of the computer. So as soon as it rebooted, resets the memory, key is lost, no way you're going to get that data back. So yes, the cost was around 2.5 billion globally. In Mærsk Drilling though, the cost was very low. $7.6 million US. It doesn't sound that low, but unfortunately, our enterprise risk register starts at 10 million US at that time. So it wasn't a risk big enough to actually talk about in the drilling company. Except for what also happened in the past, IT was not nice to have. We needed it. And all of a sudden we didn't have IT. And here's a direct learning for you guys. Next time you do an incident response training or a crisis emergency training or an emergency response training, try to do that without IT. Try to do that without a phone line. That's interesting, to say the least. I'm going to go a bit forward to some more recent past. I don't know if you've heard about it, but recently Symantec had a faulty update of their endpoint protection system. That was the second time we experienced a global outage. We use Symantec, and I was sitting at my desk. This is two and a half weeks ago. I was sitting at my desk, and all of a sudden, my computer blue screens, meaning I get the faulty image from Microsoft. And Microsoft is very nice to us. Instead of all these cryptic codes, it now introduced a sad smiley. But the effect on people is not that, oh, sad. That's panic when you see that. Everybody thought this is a new ransomware or wipe or a malware attack or whatever. And when I looked up from my laptop, I saw 20 laptops more just going down. Blue screen, rebooting, blue screen, rebooting, kept doing it. So we were back in 2017 all of a sudden. Cool part was that 15 minutes after my computer had this fault, and I was one of the first to be targeted, I don't know why. 15 minutes later, we had assembled in our emergency response teams, crisis management teams. 5 hours later, even though our network was very easily, we utilized what is known as a kill switch in different segments in our networks. So as soon as we saw this, we disconnected rigs, we disconnected critical assets, we disconnected clients from servers, we isolated all critical assets. But 5 hours after this, without having client access to the network, without having every employee being able to connect to the network, we had 2 automated fixes and 1 manual fix in place. That was a downtime of a global outage today. A lot different than 2017. We also noticed that some of the learnings we did in 2017, we might need to relearn them. Training an incident response team, emergency response team, is essential. Figuring out who takes charge in a situation like that, when you get struck, is key. And you cannot have someone who just came on board taking charge that doesn't know your critical assets if they haven't received the training. Luckily for us, we just finished a cyber crisis training, so everything was fresh in memory. Okay, I'm going to speed a bit here. Going a bit forward, we did the transformation from IT security because IT is IT, even though everybody talks about breaking down the pillars, being cross-functional, collaborative, and all of that. It's all good. It works on a slide. But in essence, you still have functional expertise, which you should have. But going away from IT security and start thinking about enterprise security has been my road for the last couple of years. Getting top management to realize that cybersecurity is something for everyone. Just like the minister mentioned, society responsibility, right? We started focusing really hard on industrial security. We spent the last 2 years remodernizing and modernizing, updating our recommended practice for technical controls in the ICS system, starting to roll it out, starting to map our own compliance level towards it. It's important to always take a step back and look down at what you actually have, what state they're in, and what's your next target for it. That's what we're doing. We're also connecting to independent third party to do security posture reviews, security maturity assessments. We started out with the IT landscape, not to get anyone paranoid or anything, but we got scared. Even though we've had learnings, and we know a lot, and we have a lot of skill sets in-house, there's still a lot of surprises out there. We've found several integrations that wasn't documented anywhere. And if you think you know your IT landscape, try ask your IT administrators and your IT key personnel, which is not the same as your IT administrators, to ask them how many service accounts do you have? How many integrations do you have? Scary numbers for you. Because integrations and service accounts have access to everything. Those should be your key concerns in your IT landscape. We also worked on long-term strategies. In cybersecurity, it's always hard to foresee something. Sometimes I present myself as a fortune teller and a priest. Someone comes in and they ask me, tell me about the future, and as soon as I've done that, I want to talk to a priest about the funeral. So it's a good role. We've focused a lot on security as a principle. In this industry, we've all had safety as a principle for a long time, and it's integrated, it's in our blood. You know, the part about holding the handrail when you walk on stairs. One of the things that really fascinates me is every time we have an offshore guy coming to headquarter office, we have this big room atrium in most drilling headquarters, and as soon as he walks out of a meeting room, before he actually steps outside, he opens the door and he looks up, and then he goes out. I like that. I want that in cybersecurity as well. Before I connect something, I want people to look at what is it I'm connecting. Is it necessary? And have I done what is needed before I connect it? Have I actually scanned it? Do I know what this is if it's a USB device? I would like to have cybersecurity as a capacity for all employees as well. That's what we're working on. So in the future, we're working on educating all layers in cybersecurity. So that's awareness, getting it out to every single employee, including top management. If top management doesn't know what cybersecurity is, get someone to educate. I'm not talking about all the fancy expressions. No one in management needs to know what a firewall is, how it works, and what it does. You have people for that. But you need to know the effect of connecting to a supplier or a customer directly, even though there's a business opportunity awaiting. You need to know that the risks behind it is managed. Bring cybersecurity close. They will help you. Lifecycle management, just to give you, and I'm out of time, I'll huddle up. Lifecycle management, it sounds easy. Everybody does it, but do we? Today in a digital world, everything has to move fast, so we virtualize. We go to cloud, we do everything. Cool part about virtualization is you can build a computer in seconds. It's independent of hardware, it doesn't matter what it runs on. On a rig, we can have 60 computers or servers running in a virtual environment. And one day I asked the guys responsible for this solution, I said, okay, how about lifecycle management? What do we do then? And they said, well, we are totally in control, updated operating systems, we do security patching, we reboot once a while when we have the opportunity, everything is good. I said, excellent. So the hardware they're running on, yeah, no problem. It's a server and it's still in support from HP and all is good. Excellent, I said. When was the date that the first hard drive was spun up? And they looked at me and said, what? Did you know that manufacturers of hard drives, for instance, design them to last for 8 years if they're the good quality, 5 years if they're the middle quality, 2 years if they're the cheap ones? And they looked at me and said, I have no clue. No. Could you please do lifecycle management from the metal up? That's one of our focus areas now. Okay, wrapping up a bit here. We talked about today the evolving threat landscape, the desire to connect to systems, exchange information and automate, talked about knowledge sharing, and the increased focus there is on the convergence layer. Reflecting back to the NotPetya attack, I can tell you that no drilling asset stopped operations during the NotPetya attack due to a hard and strong convergence layer between the enterprise IT and the industrial systems. We designed that in 2015, thank God. And it works. We're still working on it, always working on it. Cybersecurity is a society responsibility. I especially like that phrase because my closing questions to you guys would be, how many security employees do you actually think you have? I asked management at our company, And he said, well, I believe last time you said that you were like 4 guys on the main focus, and then you have the partnering model. And I said, no. We have, in Maersk Drilling alone, 2,850. That's the amount of employees we have. That's the security focus and the security team you should have. Good. I think I spent the time, sorry.
Yes. Unfortunately, you did, because I would have quite a few questions.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I'm sure that most people in here will have questions for you as well. So maybe in the break to come,
I am all available.
You could give some good advice.
Definitely.
Okay. Tusen takk for at du kom.